I guess people couldn't hear us. The mics were off.
Are we back on?
We're back on.
Cool.
Yeah. So whoever that person is that we congratulated earlier.
Congratulations again.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining our stream.
But now we've spun the wheel. We got the origins of rock and roll. And we're about to get learning.
Get some scholars.
Let's get some wiki knowledge. All right. The origins of rock and roll are complex. Rock and roll emerged as a defined musical genre in the United States in the early to mid 1950s. It derived most directly from the rhythm and blues music of the 1940s, which itself developed from earlier blues, the beat-heavy jump blues, boogie-woogie, up-tempo jazz, and swing music. It was also influenced by gospel, country, and western, and traditional folk music. Rock and roll, in turn, provided the main basis for the music that since the mid-1960s has been generally known simply as rock music. The phrase rocking and rolling originally described the movement of a ship on the ocean, but it was used in the early 20th century both to describe the spiritual fervor and as sexual analogy. Various gospel blues and swing recordings used the phrase before it became more frequently, but still intermittently, in the late 1930s and 40s, principally on recordings and in reviews of what became known as rhythm and blues, music aimed at black audiences. In 1939, during the April 5th broadcast of the Fred Allen Town Hall Tonight Show, the song Rock and Roll appeared as a barbershop quartet let in. That's not exactly what I was thinking of rock and roll as. A rock and roll band, a barbershop quartet. That's like what the Music Man is telling people to be afraid of. It's like
the pool hall.
The pool hall. They got the barbershop quartet in the pool hall. That rhymes with pool. A Billboard record review described Sister Rosetta Sharp's vocals on the upbeat blues song Rock Me by Lucky Milliner as a rock and roll spiritual singing. In 1951, Cleveland-based disc jockey Alan Freed began playing this music style while popularizing the term rock and roll on mainstream radio.
I do think it's really funny that it was like that guy that was, what, 3 pages ago, the one that he went and did like studying with the during the Manhattan Project, and he goes,
yeah.
He didn't have a link, but this disc jockey, he's got a link.
No, the other guy, the guy that was the Manhattan Project had a link.
Okay, who's the one that didn't have the link?
It was someone to do with tornadoes.
Yeah,
it's like they discovered this connection between like the spiral sixes on like storm patterns and the occurrence of tornadoes, which sounds like a pretty cool like notice.
Yeah.
They didn't have a link. They're just like, okay, I guess you're
this disc
not
jockey
cool
started playing rock and roll.
He might like appear in a documentary or something too.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this guy. See a picture of him?
Oh, he is quite dashing.
Right there.
Dabonair.
In 1951, let's see, rock and roll on mainstream radio. As of 2018, BBC article explained by the time DJ Alan Freed started using the term to describe rhythm and blues, the sexual component had been dialed down enough that it simply became an acceptable term for dancing.
Oh, okay.
Freed was the first radio disc jockey and concert producer who frequently played and promoted rock and roll, including songs by black artists that were considered to be R&B. Various recordings that date back to the 1940s have been named as the first rock and roll record, or at least as precursors of the music.
So that's kind of cool that he was one of the first disc jockeys to play black artists.
Yeah, it also sounds like our initial inquiry is a little more complicated than just there's the first rock and roll song. It's like, oh, there's
I mean, I did write in first. I wrote first rock and roll song into my search, and I was like, this isn't like, I mean, rock and roll is a gradual progression of like change in music, right? Because like even now, like you look at punk rock and heavy metal, like that all has origins of rock too,
and even genres sort of as separate from rock and roll as like dubstep.
Yeah,
dubstep has a huge influence from like punk rock and heavy metal of like the 70s and 80s.
Yeah,
so There's even like a Skrillex song called Rock and Roll. So I know you don't like Skrillex, but I used to listen to that song a lot back when it was cool to be into dubstep. Now you are ironically into dubstep because Deadpool likes dubstep.
Oh, okay.
So actually, I think the song Rock and Roll by Skrillex is in Deadpool 2.
Oh, I missed that.
It's the scene where Deadpool fights Cable in the prison. He goes like, "Is dubstep still a thing?" And Cable goes, only weirdos listen to dubstep." And Deadpool's like, "No," and then hits him, and then it goes rock and roll, and the song plays.
Okay.
So I've fully described the scene to you now. The alternative phrase rocking and rolling originally was used by mariners, at least as early as the 17th century, to describe the combined rocking fore and aft and rolling side to side motion of a ship on the ocean. Examples include the 1821 reference "prevent her from rocking and rolling" and the 1835 reference to a ship rolling and rocking on both beam ends. The hymn "Rocked in the Cradle of the Deep," with the words written by the 1830s by Emma Willard to the tune by Joseph Philip Knight, was recorded several times around the start of the 20th century by the original Bison City Quartet before 1894, the Standard Quartet in 1895, John W. Mayers at the same time, and Gus Reed in 1908. By that time, the specific phrase "rocking and rolling" was used by African Americans in spirituals with a religious connotation. It's kind of interesting because, like, you think of like Dee Snider and all of them, like Twisted Sister, and how the government was saying it's like this is the music for like Satan and stuff like that, and like this is like terrible music for like kids to listen to have it start with religious connotations and then morph from there is pretty interesting, you know. Although Dee Snider was obviously like way more prepared for that hearing than people wanted him to be, because he looks like a weirdo, but he's really cool and smart. Let's see. In April 25th, 1881, comedian John W. Morton of Morton's Minstrels performed a song entitled "Rock and Roll" as a part of repertoire of comic songs at the concert at the Theatre Royal in Victoria, British Columbia. A comic song titled "Rock and Roll Me" was performed by Johnny Gardner and the Moores Troubadours theatrical group during the performance in Australia in 1886. And one newspaper critic wrote that Gardner made himself so amusing that the large audience fairly rocked and rolled with laughter.
I think it's really interesting that like a lot of these like first like rock and roll songs are all like, we're gonna make fun of that.
We're gonna be goofy. Let us all goof around. The earliest known recordings of the phrase were in several versions of the Camp Meeting Jubilee by both the Eddie Mail Quartet and the Columbia Quartet, recorded between 1896 and 1990. It contained the lyric, "Keep on rocking and rolling your arms, rocking and rolling in your arms, rocking and rolling in your arms, in the arms of Moses." That turned.
I thought he parted the seas. We didn't go on the seas. He parted.
Yeah, he parted them. He wasn't on the boat.
That was Noah.
So. Hey, someone's got the zoomies. He's got the zoomies. Someone's got the zoomies. She's all hyped up because of all the tuna-fish she just ate.
All right, continue.
The earliest known recordings of the phrase. Okay, we read that part. Rockin' was also used to describe the spiritual rapture felt by worshippers at certain religious events and to refer to the rhythm often found in the accompanying music.
Suddenly Christian rock. Oh, I don't know. I don't think we did.
Set a timer for 25 minutes.
Yeah. I do think it's funny that like I feel like I made fun of Christian rock as like, oh yeah, they're just trying to make like Christian stuff cool by making it rock, but it's like, no, rock was from Christians.
Or something.
There's a lot of religious affiliation so far.
Yeah.
All right. I started one.
The butt wiggles.
Okay. Oh, goodness.
Oh, my God.
That's kind of scary for your camera.
I know, I wasn't anticipating. We're still in frame, it looks like. I wasn't anticipating that pounce.
her spring for speed.
What is she going after?
I don't know, but we're wasting time.
At certain religious events and to refer to the rhythm often found in the accompanying music. At around the same time, the terminology was used in secular contexts, for example, to describe the motion of railroad trains. It has been suggested that it was also used by men building railroads who would sing to keep the pace, swinging their hammers down to drill a hole into the rock, and the men who held the steel spikes would rock the spike back and forth to clear rock or roll, twisting to improve the bite of the drill. Rocking and rolling were also used both separately and together in sexual context. Writers for hundreds of years used the phrases, "they had a roll in the hay," or "I rolled her in the clover." There's a whole song about rolling in the hay in the musical version of Young Frankenstein.
Yeah. Roll in the hay.
In the early 20th century, the words increasingly were used together in secular black slang.
I was going to say double meaning.
Okay, ostensibly referring to dancing and partying, but often with the subtext meaning of sex.
Subtextual meaning.
Subtextual meaning of sex. Double entendre.
Double entendre. Yes.
Cool.
We got 23 minutes left.
Cool.
A double entendre, or plural double entendres, is...
I think it's dra.
Whatever.
Not like Dr. Dre.
Dr. Dre. Is a figure of speech or a particular way of wording that is devised to have a double meaning, one of which is typically obvious and the other often conveys a message that would be too socially unacceptable or offensive to state directly. A double entendre may exploit puns or wordplay to convey the second meaning. Double entendres generally rely on multiple meanings of words or different interpretations of the same primary meaning. They often exploit ambiguity and may be used to introduce it deliberately in a text. Sometimes a homophone can be used as a pun. When three or more meanings have been constructed, this is known as a triple entendre, etc. Etymology. According to the Merriam-Webster Unabridged Dictionary of the Oxford English Dictionary, the expression comes from the rare and obsolete French expression, which literally means double meaning, and was in the series of in the senses of double understanding or ambiguity by acquiring its content. Its current suggestive twist in English after being first used in 1673 by John Dryden. The phrase has not been used in French for centuries and would be ungrammatical in modern French. Not exact equivalent exists in French whose similar expression, mot expression à double entente, and mot expression double sense do not have the suggestiveness of the English expression. A person who is unfamiliar with the hidden or alternative meaning of the sentence may fail to detect its innuendos, aside from the observing that others find it humorous for no apparent reason. Innuendo is often used in sitcoms and other comedy.
Is what I would like to
and other comedy where some in the audience may enjoy the humor while being oblivious to its secondary meaning.
I love sitcoms, so that is what we're clicking on. I was watching Friends today at the gym.
Me too.
Yeah.
I was watching. It was one with Joey that gets gets the award, and then
he gets the award. Then they have the episode where him and Rachel go on a date.
Yeah, I watched part of that one too.
That one was really cute. The opening.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then Joey's asking her all the questions about the apartment. She's like, "Oh, you got a pizza box? I like your pizza box. Oh, a subscription of Playboy. A woman after my own heart." It's his Playboy though. It's his apartment. A sitcom, a shortening of situation comedy or situational comedy, is a genre of comedy centered on the fixed set of characters which mostly carry over from episode to episode. Sitcoms can be contrasted with sketch comedy, where a troupe may use new characters in each sketch, and stand-up comedy, where a comedian tells jokes and stories to the audience. Sitcoms originated in radio, but today are found mostly on television as one of its dominant narrative forms. Sitcoms are a live-action type of show. A sitcom may be recorded in front of a studio audience, depending on the program's production format. The effect of a live studio audience can be imitated or enhanced by the use of a laugh track. Critics disagree over the usage of the term sitcom in classifying shows that have come into existence since the turn of the 21st century. Many contemporary American sitcoms use a single camera setup and do not feature a laugh track, thus often resembling the dramedy shows of the 1980s and 1990s rather than the traditional sitcom. Sitcoms can have an audience of both family and for adults. So they're saying that many contemporary American sitcoms use single camera setups. Those would be
like Modern Family, Office.
The Office, yeah, which is actually like because The Office is doing like a mockumentary style.
I mean, so is Modern Family.
So is Modern Family. There's a term for it though, which I can't remember off the top of my head. It's a term for that one specifically. That kind of style though. But it's basically using the camera as a character, which is pretty common in like, especially in The Office, whenever they like zoom in on Jim, like staring at the camera.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be like
a company's in there doing a documentary of the paper company.
Yeah. So we're taking the role of the cameraman, basically. The terms situation comedy or sitcom were not commonly used until the 1950s. There were prior examples on radio, but the first television sitcom is said to be Pinwright's Progress, with 10 episodes being broadcast on the BBC in the United Kingdom between 1946 and 1947 in the United States. Director and producer William Asher has been credited with being the man who invented the sitcom, having directed over 24 of the leading sitcoms, including I Love Lucy, from the 1950s through the 1970s. Australia. There have been few long-running Australian-made sitcoms, but many US and UK sitcoms have been successful in Australia. Sitcoms are a staple of the government broadcaster Australian Broadcasting Corporation. In the 1970s and 80s, many UK sitcoms also screened on the 7 network. By 1986, UK comedies Bless This House and Are You Being Served had been repeated by ABC Television several times and were then acquired and screened by the 7 network in prime time. In 1981, Daily at Dawn was the first Australian comedy series to feature a regular gay character, Teddy Batter, as journalist Leslie. That's pretty cool. In 1987, Mother and Son was winner of the Television Drama Award presented by the Australian Human Rights Commission. What? I didn't even know that they gave awards.
Wait, which one was that?
Mother and Son.
Oh, yeah, okay.
In 2007, Kath and Kim's first episode of Series 4 attracted an Australian audience of 2.521 million nationally, the highest rating ever for a first episode in the history of Australian television, until the series premiere of Underbelly, A Tale of Two Cities in 2009, with 2.58 million viewers. In 2013, Please Like Me received an invitation to screen at the Series Mania Television Festival in Paris, was praised by critics, and has garnered numerous awards and nominations. Also in 2013, A Home with Julia was criticized by several social commentators as inappropriately disrespectful to the office of Prime Minister. The show nevertheless I'm pretty sure those people have never seen Black Mirror at this point.
Wait, which one is this?
Home with Julia was criticized by several social commentators as inappropriately disrespectful to the office of Prime Minister.
First episode's rough. Black Mirror.
Yeah, with the pig.
But I mean, that's UK, not Australia. Maybe Australia is a little bit more strict.
I guess so, because I thought in the UK it was like a protected right to be able to make fun of any member of government, and in the US that's also the case.
Yeah.
This Comedy Central used to have like that George W. Bush show and stuff like that.
I don't think they're saying it was against the law. Just people were like,
it's inappropriate.
It's inappropriate.
Which I guess that there is a difference, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not saying it's bad. It's just inappropriate.
Yeah, and it's social commenters, so we can always call them Karens.
Those Karens really thought the show was inappropriately disrespectful to the office of Prime Minister. The show nevertheless provided very popular both with television audiences, becoming the most watched Australian scripted comedy series of 2011, and with television critics nominated by to the 2012 Australian Academy of Cinema and Television Arts Awards for Best Television Comedy Series. Canada. Although there have been a number of notable exceptions, Canadian television networks have generally fared poorly with their sitcom offerings, with relatively few Canadian sitcoms attaining notable success in Canada or internationally. Canadian television has a much greater success with sketch comedy and dramedy series. The popular show King of Kensington aired from 1975 to 1980, drawing an average of 1.5 to 1.8 million viewers weekly at its peak. The Trailer Park Boys movie of 1999 was followed up by a television series that ran from 2001 to 2018, airing in Canada, the US, and the UK. I watched a lot of Trailer Park Boys in college. I could not.
I have not seen any of it.
It was one that
I've seen him doing the ship shanty to the kitty cat song.
Oh yeah.
That's all I've seen.
I think I spent like a weekend and watched like the first 3 seasons of it.
How does it compare against that one with the get out of my house?
There's a lot more episodes, that's for sure. But
it's Blue Mountain State, right?
The difference between Blue Mountain State and Trailer Park Boys is I finished Blue Mountain State. I did not finish Trailer Park Boys.
It feels like there's like a lot of similarities just in like the clips that I've seen.
Blue Mountain State just like it's not. There's some things in it that are just not funny and have not aged well.
Can you say the same about Trailer Park Boys though? Because I bet that's true too.
Oh yeah, it definitely has not aged well. Probably parts of it. I could not remember any individual joke besides the kitty sea shanty.
Yeah, like those so funny. Cute.
Corner Gas, which ran for 6 seasons from 2004 to 2009, became an instant hit, averaging 1 million viewers per episode. It has been the recipient of 6 Gemini Awards and has been nominated almost 70 times for various awards. Other noteworthy recent sitcoms have included Call Me Fitz, Schitt's Creek.
I want to click on Schitt's Creek.
Okay. Letterkenny and Kim's Convenience, all of which have been winners of the Canadian Screen Award for Best Comedy Series.
Okay, before we click on it, is Gene Levy like from Canada?
Yeah, they live in Toronto.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Since he's such a big star in American Pie, I thought he was from America.
No, he's Canadian.
Apparently, I didn't realize.
Eugene Levy, he's Canadian, and him and his children and wife. So delicate. So delicate.
So scary.
Very scary. But she gets to be a queen up there.
Yeah.
They all live in Toronto.
Oh, I hadn't realized that.
And I remember reading an interview with Eugene Levy where he talks about specifically moving away from LA to live in Toronto with his family so that like they wouldn't be caught up in like the whole like Hollywood hubbub kind of
craziness.
thing, right?
Yeah. Please do not get her excited up there.
I won't. Don't worry. She's almost visible in the camera.
Just her little paw hanging down.
Probably just her little paw, yeah.
All right. Schitt's Creek. Schitt's Creek, stylized as Schitt's Creek with the cash mark sign, is a Canadian television sitcom created by Dan Levy and his father Eugene Levy that aired in CBC television from 2015 to 2020. It consists of 80 episodes spread over 6 seasons, produced by Not a Real Company Productions and the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. It follows the trials and tribulations of the formerly wealthy Rose family. After their business manager embezzles the family business, Rose Video, the family loses its fortune and relocates to Schitt's Creek, a town they once purchased as a joke. Now living in a motel, Johnny, Eugene Levy, and Moira, Catherine O'Hare, along with their adult offspring, David, Dan Levy, and Alexis, Anne Murphy, must adjust to life without wealth. The series concept came from Dan Levy, who wondered how wealthy families, as frequently depicted in American reality television, would react if they lost all their money. He developed the series with his father, Eugene, after pitching it to several Canadian and American networks. It was first sold to CBC Television in Canada and secured final funding to start production in the sale to Pop in the United States. Although the limited in popularity for its first few seasons, its regional appearances on Netflix after its third season is credited for its rise in stature, the so-named Netflix bump in the dynamic social media presence.
Yeah, the Netflix bump is real because like so many shows get like a huge secondary life on Netflix.
Yeah, I didn't watch Schitt's Creek until like way after it ended, and I still haven't finished it because like I'm like dragging out that last season because I love it so much.
I don't think you started it until the pandemic.
No, I didn't, and then I was like, this show's amazing. Well, I watched Schitt's Creek is this like it's this really interesting concept because it's about people you hate, especially at the beginning. Like there's no redeeming like of like the main family until maybe the second season, but like by the end of the first you realize they're trying to do something different. Like they're not just complaining. They're trying to take the next steps as a family, and I really appreciate that. Like I liked that, and I liked how much the characters change because so often in sitcoms like it's the same thing over and over. Like Ross is always Ross, and Chandler's always Chandler. Joey, I think, actually has like some character change over it because like he wants like something more meaningful with Rachel, and then that blows up and doesn't actually end up happening.
And then he gets a spinoff show, which I never watched.
I didn't watch the spinoff, but Joey's probably like the only character I really liked in Friends because he's pretty honest with like who he is.
Yeah, I did like Chandler, especially in later seasons where he's married to Monica.
I agree with that because Chandler does change a lot too, but Monica doesn't really change over the whole series. I don't think personally.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think so. I don't remember her changing a ton.
Yeah, but Chandler and Joey both. Joey I don't think changes as much as Chandler, but Chandler changes significantly.
Yeah, and then there's other shows like The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah,
where those characters, the only character that like you see a large amount of growth with is Howard, which is wild because like
he's so chauvinistic at the beginning, and then he marries Bernadette.
An afterthought.
Oh, the character was an afterthought.
Howard and Raj were afterthoughts in the creation
really?
of the show.
I didn't know that. They definitely needed people to balance the rest of the group out, though.
Yeah. So I was watching an interview where they were talking about, or maybe it was not an interview. It was like some commentary in the behind the scenes where like, Leonard and Sheldon tested really well with test audiences.
Oh, okay.
And so when they were like writing the first season, they're just like, well, they like these first two guys. We'll add two more guys. And ended up being Raj and Howard.
Okay.
And Raj, one of his whole problems was like he could not talk to women, so he had this character that could not talk to people, like certain characters.
And then Howard can't shut up.
Howard can't shut up, but like he at least with his relationship with Bernadette and like through these other things becomes this dynamic character.
And when he loses his mom and they have that episode where he's upset about the food that his mom cooked after her death, like before she died, is in the freezer and it's going bad.
Oh yeah, because they lost power.
Right. And he's getting upset and Bernadette's just like, I don't get it why it's such a big deal. It's just food. He's like, it's the last food that my mom made. And then he has like this whole scene. Bernadette's like, why don't we have everybody over? And he's like, yeah, it'll be like the last time Mom cooks for everybody. I'm like, I'm tearing up just talking about it. Like, that's a really good like scene.
But that's like a great example of like some of the best parts of a sitcom.
Yeah,
these scenes that like make you feel something really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not a joke. It's something serious. Like everybody has to deal with loss.
Yeah.
So.
And Schitt's Creek did that to me for a bunch of things.
Oh yeah, like what?
I'm trying to like I loved David's relationship with his boyfriend and then husband.
Oh yeah, I really like that relationship too.
Whole story was very touching, just because like it feels really genuine. And I the boyfriend is one of the characters that like Schitt's Creek, as you were saying, like you hate so many of these other people throughout it. Like David at the beginning is a piece of shit. Alexis especially is a piece of shit.
David changes a lot faster than the rest of the group though.
Yeah,
which I like.
Well, Johnny is not wildly unlikable.
No.
But Moira is crazy.
Oh, but she has some of the best lines.
She does have some of the best lines. Moira is
oh no, phenomenal. Our feed's gone. But yeah, I love
take this opportunity to adjust it because
of our sprinter.
Yeah, our track and field star.
But one of the scenes for me was when David's walking through the convenience store and he's trying to explain to I don't remember the character who is in the hotel as the concierge about like his sexuality, and he goes, well, like I could go for wine, red wine and white wine, and sometimes I'm into rosé. Like I really thought that was a really good way to explain it to maybe like a group of people that haven't even really thought about like what the concept is of like
of bisexuality.
Yeah. I thought that was a really good like conversation just to like have, and like it's in a comedic, it's not even in a comedic fashion because they're not like making a joke out of it while they're having the conversation. He's just trying to explain who he is, which I liked. I thought that was good.
Or did he end it by saying he's like, he's more interested in the bottle than the wine?
Yeah,
like that?
I think that's, and I also think that's a really good like statement to like close it, right?
Yeah.
So, but we continue.
Yeah. We love sitcoms.
Yeah. And it's sail to pop in the United States. Although limited, or we talked about the Netflix bump.
Yeah.
Schitt's Creek received critical acclaim and garnished a cult following, particularly for its writing, humor, and acting. It has won various prizes, including 2 ACTR Awards and 18 Canadian Screen Awards. It is the first Canadian comedy series to be nominated for the Critics' Choice Television Award for Best Comedy Series, and it has also received 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards, including Outstanding Performance by Ensemble in a Comedy Series, and a total of 19 Prime Time Emmy Award nominations, including Outstanding Comedy Series twice. It received 15 of these nominations for its 6th and final season, setting a record for the most Emmy nominations for comedy series in a final season. For its portrayal of LGBTQ community people, it received 3 nominations for a GLAAD Media Award for Outstanding Comedy Series, winning twice. That's really cool. I had no idea.
I'm pretty sure I think a lot of that comes from, and maybe this is just like wild assumption, because I'm pretty sure Dan Levy is a member of the LGBTQ community.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean that would make sense. And he did a lot of like the writing for it with his father. You're just doing quick side.
I was just curious because like if he is, then
okay, well I'm gonna keep going. At the 72nd Primetime Emmy Awards, the series finale, final season swept all 7 major comedy awards. It is the first time a comedy or drama series received all 7 awards. That's wicked cool. Dan Levy notably received Outstanding Comedy Series writing and directing for the comedy series, sharing with the last with Andrew Covidino. I'm pretty sure I listened to him on a interview with Wait Don't Tell Me, and they asked like, so how does it feel to know that you've peaked? And he's just like, it's not good. I can't remember if that was like something that's just in my head or if it's something that I actually heard.
So he in an interview with Andy Cohen, Levy said that he was obviously gay and has been out since he was 18. Yeah, a member of the LGBT community.
Yeah.
So back to my wild assumption.
Not so wild.
Not so wild, but it's also like you have this member of the LGBT community writing these LGBT characters that he then portrays.
Yeah.
And so he does a lot more careful job of the portrayal and dynamic, because like David is a dynamic character.
Right. And that's
important.
And that's where you run into like getting people's voices in the writing room, right? Because we went on that deep dive once with Medea, because I was like, I really enjoy certain aspects of Tyler Perry's Medea movies, like the scene where she drops a car from a forklift. Great scene, super funny, right? But like when we were doing that dive, I was like curious to know like a little bit more about like how it's received just in general and all this other stuff. And I had no idea that Tyler Perry was the only one in those rooms doing all of the writing. And then we're going through and watching these movies, and I'm like, yeah, the romances aren't that deep. It's like, oh, we're gonna go in, the woman's abused, we're gonna beat the guy up, we're gonna end up with a romance. Like it doesn't, and I get like the movie's supposed to be about the romance, and then Medea is like the sprinkle on top, right? But like the romance really isn't deep enough to be most of these movies.
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong, I still enjoy them and I enjoy watching them, but like I
really
wish there was like more of that kind of like style of like drama with like the crazy person in it that like ties it together, right? But like had more of like more people in the writers room. I would appreciate that a lot more.
I'm sure there is, because there's a lot of media out there. We just haven't found it.
Yeah,
yet,
exactly.
Right? Because we're, unfortunately, we have the bad habit of being a little stuck in our ways.
That's true.
Maybe that's mostly me and I'm holding you back. So.
That's not true. But there was one sitcom I really like. I have to look up the name of it later. But I think Tyler Perry might have been involved with some of it. But I did like that one. Anyways, continue.
Well, that was the timer.
Yeah. So we gotta go to our next spin.
So our next spin. So we started.
This is our last one.
Rock and roll, and we ended on Schitt's Creek.
Oh yeah. So the sitcom I'm thinking of is Tyler Perry's House of Pain. I really like that one.
I've never watched it.
I don't know if he's really involved with the writing on that one though. He directed every episode in the first 3 seasons, so I'm sure he was involved with the writing.